Forward down the field, a charging team that will not yield. That's right. You know what, Mike? I wouldn't be lying if I didn't tell you I was excited for this team recap. That's right. I say, and I gave a pun. We have the Detroit Lions, our hometown team today. How you doing?
Terrible. Actually, I've been trying to put off this video as long as we could, but by the nature of the United States geography, we hit the NFC North right now. So here we are.
We're here, and I think we need to get right into it. Draft class. I'll just get right into it because I'm a little bit more optimistic than you are. So I have an analogy for you guys. My favorite ice cream, mint chocolate chip. Best ice cream. It's what I want every time I eat ice cream. This is like getting vanilla ice cream. Is it still good? Yes. Will I still eat it? Yes. But it's not mint chocolate chip ice cream. It's not even really chocolate ice cream. Just plain chocolate. It's vanilla. And that's how I feel about this. This was a good draft class. It's a very vanilla draft class. And that's how I feel about this. And I like the players. I think Jeff Okudah, it's debatable. He's probably the best defensive player on the board at that point. And obviously, some people might argue someone else, but he was my best defensive player available at that point. But in DeAndre Swift, I think that's a great second-round pick. And I've been talking a lot about having a stable of running backs, and that's kind of in the modern NFL. You need that. You can't have – it's really hard to have one guy carrying the ball 20 times a game, 20, 25 times a game. You need different kind of flavors. You need different players. You need something that brings something else to the team. And I think having that combination of Kerryon, DeAndre, and then to a lesser amount, Bo Scarbo and maybe even Ty Johnson, I think that's a good stable. I think you have some players that can play there. And Julian Okura, before he broke his leg, you were talking about him as a first-round pick. Yes, he has some deficiencies. He cannot stop the run. He is a pass rusher. But this is what this team needs. You could put him down. You put him in on third down and let him do his work. And even later in the round, I think there were some good picks. I think, and you will disagree here, they needed guard, so they got two of them. And I hopefully one pans out. You know, sometimes I like some competition, and, man, they had a competition. They went back-to-back guard. After that, I think the draft just went – I don't think it's very – there's much going on. I think it's kind of – there's no reason to really talk about it. But up to that point, I liked it. I think they made some good picks, but at the end of the day, it was vanilla. It wasn't mint chocolate chip. I think they could have done a better job.
All right, so that's an interesting analogy. I'll use another one. So it's like you went to Swirly Top to eat your mint chocolate chip ice cream, a nice little local ice cream shop here in Michigan, and you ordered mint chocolate chip, and she took the scoop from the mint chocolate chip, and she dipped it in the vanilla, and then she accidentally drops it into the garbage disposal, fetches it out, and then serves it to you. I'm like, that's what it's like. This draft is trash. And the players individually aren't trash. I like Okudah. I like Swift. Okwara is fine. But for what they do for the team, like, what are we talking about here? Jeff Okudah, I don't understand why this pick is being celebrated, Mike. And maybe you can clarify this to me. But it's like you have a bundle of fruit, right? And back in March, some dude stole 5 apples from me. And today you gave me 2 apples, and I'm going to celebrate like I have more apples than I started with. What are we doing here? Like, we got worse at cornerback with the number 3 pick. How is that even possible? How is that possible? So then with Swift at running back, I agree with what you said, that, oh, yeah, we need a stable of running backs. How about a stable not that we spent 2 second-round picks on in the past 3 years? Like, now we have, even more so than a first-rounder, we might have the most draft capital invested in the running back position, and I don't really know if we have a top 5, even top 10 one, to say the least, right now. Do you think we do?
Top 10's hard. I don't know if I go there, but top 5, definitely not. I don't think – obviously, I think individual players, there's a couple of them that just stick out, like Saquon Barkley, Zeke, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook. There's 4, and I really didn't even think that hard. So,
yeah, so not top 10. And people counter back like, oh, what about the Colts? They did the same thing. Well, no, they really didn't, because Marlon Mack was a 4th-round pick who's exceeded expectations. You're replacing a guy, Kerryon, who you drafted in the 2nd to be this elite running back who's failed to live up to expectations. So here's what you can either do. You can either like the DeAndre Swift pick and trash the Kerryon pick, or you can trash the Kerryon pick and like the Swift pick. Either way, it's a 50-50 proposition here. One of them's trash, right? After that, Julian Okura, as you said, he is a guy who can rush the passer, but I don't think he's doing much more than that. And I do think that based on kind of who was on the board at that point, that you might have actually still overdrafted him. Maybe it was a little bit of that old Bob Quinn nepotism, because we have his brother Romeo on the roster. We had to do Julian a favor. But I just think that there were better players on the board at that time. I agree that maybe a year ago it might have been looked at as good value, but I don't know if today people are saying that Julian Okura was the 67th best player. Maybe if you got him later in the third round or in that fourth round, maybe not really at 67, because to me that's basically still a second-round pick at that time. And I don't think anybody's spending a second-round pick on Julian Okura personally. And then the back-to-back guard, that's really great because you can only play one of them, so let's just waste the fourth-round or third-round pick. That's cool. I'm cool with that. Other than that, get the rest out of here. Mike, any rebuttals or thoughts?
You're trash. The third round pick, pick 67, that's where you're going to take a player that has that potential. And at worst, he has a floor. And it's a good pass rusher. It's a third down specialist. If you can get a third round pass rushing specialist with the third round, that's fine. And I don't think Kerryon has to be a bad pick if Swift works out. I think if you could have two running backs that can average, at 12 to 15 carries and maybe – hopefully in like the 60, 70-yard, or one breaks out, you run with that one for the rest of the game. But there's no problem with that. Just think about the Super Bowl.
Okay. All right. No. Okay, so here, think about the Super Bowl. Go ahead, whatever. Give me one running back combo in the league that has used as much capital as now DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson. Give me one. You could who are you even pointing to? Latavius Murray and Alvin Kamara? Like one of them was a free agent. If this wasn't DeAndre Swift and it was signing Devonta Freeman, I'd be okay with it because you're not spending two prime draft selections in the last 3 years on the same position. I realize the value in a running back stable, but what are we talking about here? I don't think that is the right place to go when we're going to get to the depth charts. You have 3 or 4 massive holes still on the team that you could have addressed otherwise.
I guess this is where they took best player available. I think it's hard to argue that Swift wasn't the best player available there. There was a couple players reasonably there, but I think where your holes were, the players didn't match. I would have had a really hard time taking a Blacklock over Swift or taking.
So what about like Yatir Gross-Matos, who went a couple picks later? What about that? What about a guy like let's just say Laviska Shenault or Chase Claypool when next year probably Marvin Jones and Danny Amendola aren't going to be on the roster? What about something like that instead? You want to say best player available? I agree that Swift was probably the best value potentially there, considering I think he should have probably been the first running back off the board, and obviously Clyde went at the end of round 1. But I don't think that excuses – I don't think you can just pick for BPA. I think that's probably the worst drafting strategy there is when it comes to trying to create a competitive team. You need to draft BPA, N. You need the need in there. You need to accommodate for need, and I think that this is a complete luxury pick. Just like the same people who said they wanted Isaiah Simmons at 3, that was an absolute luxury. So is Swift here at 35.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I think I think you pulled Yetur Gross-Matos. I think you pulled that one on me. That hurt. It was actually one of my top dogs in the draft. I really liked him. I liked the potential there, and he kind of knew he was going to be there towards that late first, early second. So, yeah, that one was probably a pick I would have made over DeAndre Swift, to be honest with you. That's why I'm saying this wasn't my mint chocolate chip. This was my vanilla, and that's what I'm saying. This wasn't my first choice. And we haven't even got into something big, and I guess Jeff Okudah probably was my player I would have liked to take with my first pick. The problem was where you picked them at pick 3. Not being able to create a market for that pick when obviously quarterback was at the top of many teams' lists, as you had Tua, Herbert, going 5 and 7. So the point that 5 and 6, I apologize. The point that you couldn't create a market for that pick and try to pick up extra capital to maybe get yourself get a second round and maybe be able to pick someone up like Yeater as well as Swift, or a player like that, or Blacklock, and be able to also fill one of those holes while also being able to take the best player available. That would have given me more leeway. Because I understand where you're coming from, and to an extent, I do agree. I just, and maybe this is my thing, is I do not think this regime, the Matt Patricia Quinn regime, is going to last very much longer, and it shouldn't. So I guess where my thing is, I really don't mind it, is a lot of these players are going to be there for the other team, and whatever regime takes over, I think can use these players. I think they're good players, and I even think as we get into
So I'm gonna cut you off there, Mike. Actually, because I agree that these guys are good players, right? But like you said, Julian Okura, for example, you still had guys like Zach Bond and Terrell Lewis on the board. Those are both guys that you mocked to go in the first round. You didn't mock Julian Okura to go in the first round, and there's a reason for that. There's better value at those positions. Lloyd Cushenberry was still available when we took Jonah Jackson. That's an egregious offense. Or even with the DeAndre Swift pick, I can say it's good value, but there still were three very capable running backs on the board there. You could easily have moved back and created value, just like you're saying with that third pick. And that's, to me, the worst defense of them all, because if you're taking a corner when you don't just have one need to fill, I guess that's my problem with it. You could have moved back to 6 or 8 or 9, and if Okudah's there, great. But if Derek Brown's there, that's fine too. Or if one of those tackles is there, that's fine too. Like, there were so many different places that you could have went at the top of this draft board. I don't think that it's sensible just to sit there at 3. And what did we hear? Jeff Okudah was the highest cornerback selected since 1998 or something like that, 1997, whatever it was. It's just another case of Bob Quinn being the smartest guy in the room. And I think that DeAndre Swift pick is another example of that. Because like I said, name me a running back duo that's using up that capital, and there are none. So it's just again and again. And you see it last year with the TJ Hockenson pick. You just see it. And it's a revolving door of things that the Lions are, going out on a limb and doing. And sometimes the fan base wants to applaud it. And then by the time we get to November and December, they won't be applauded. And I don't think you will be either. So while I do agree that these are some solid players for the next regime, just the fact that we're already talking about a next regime is pathetic to me.
Well, it doesn't matter who they picked or where they picked them. It matters about the team. Are they going to play or not? Let's get into that offensive depth chart. So, Mike, what are your thoughts?
I mean, really, what has changed? We just got done doing the Packers video where they had a lot of the same players pretty much everywhere. And outside of really the right side of that offensive line, I guess I don't see the change. Do you – I mean, obviously, you're going to have a healthy Matthew Stafford, but I'm going to flip it to you first. What do you think is kind of like the standout addition or whatever it is here that's going to make this team take a step up in 2020?
Yeah, I'd actually tend to agree with you. I think that if anything, that there's one bigger hole. They lost Graham Glasgow. I think that was a big loss, and obviously the market showed he was a quality player with the contract the Broncos gave him. So I also do not think Oday Abushi is going to be starting at guard. I think they drafted Jonah Jackson to start, and I think a capable player. He started off at Rutgers, dominated, went to Ohio State and dominated. So I think he's going to be a surprise. I think we've seen third-round offensive guards, even for this team, it's kind of something that works out for them. Graham Glasgow, Larry Warford. They've had players in the third round, and I think it's a perfect place to draft an offensive lineman. So I think that pick's going to work out. I don't think I hope to God that Oday Abushi isn't playing. But I think the biggest thing to add on this team is Matt Stafford. He's back. He's healthy. When this offense ran last year, it was a well-oiled and tuned machine, and that's what I want to see. And I think that adding that running back to and obviously our offensive coordinator coming from Seattle, he likes that. He likes having options there, and they both can pass catch. So I think the availability, these players, I just think the weapons in Matt Stafford at their finest. I think it might be one of the best offenses in the NFC North. I think it may be. I'm going to say it. I am going to say
When you
it.
just said that, Mike, I see somebody just going like, "Ooh, go Lions, go Lions!" Like, get out of here with that. That is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard in my life. Maybe, like, What offense is this better than outside of Chicago? Actually. So they're not one of the best right off the top. Get that out of here.
They are a better offense than the Vikings and the Packers. The issue is on the other side of the ball. This side of the ball is not the problem.
Where are they better? Wait. Kerryon Johnson and DeAndre Swift, are either of those guys better than Dalvin Cook? No. Kenny Golladay, Marvin Jones, are either of those guys, or I'll say, are both of those guys better than Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson?
Yes.
No.
It's not close. It's not close.
What's not close? What is not close there?
It's not close. It's not close. Kenny Golladay is a better player than Adam Thielen.
Oh, my God.
Not close.
That is the most just
okay, not close isn't right there. But I don't think it's actually – it's close, but I don't think it should be a question. Okay, Devontae Adams, Kenny Golladay, there's a question. Devontae Adams is a better player. Marvin Jones?
No, that's not a question. Devontae Adams is unquestionably a top 5 receiver in the league. Kenny Golladay is what, like 15? And
No.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I do think that Adam Thielen is better than Kenny Golladay.
No.
The question is, will Justin Jefferson translate as much as like a Marvin Jones will? And I think that he easily will. And then you keep going down the list. Sure, we might have tight end over those teams, but oh yeah, we spent the 10th pick on that guy, or what was it, 8th pick, 9th pick. And then our offensive line, I think that that's a terrible offensive line. I'm sorry to say it. Like, do you think Taylor Decker's a quality left tackle? No. Do you think that Joe Dahl's at this point a decent left guard? I'll give him that. I used to trash on the guy, but I think last year he proved, at least against the pass, that he was a serviceable player. And so far, Frank Ragnow has been okay. But I don't like Oday, Abushi, or whoever they're going to toss out there at right guard. And I think the Big V signing is a big joke at right tackle, Mike, because you want to look at it and be like, oh, yeah, they locked down right tackle for the next 5 years. That's just garbage, Mike. You let go of Rick Wagner. You didn't say that, but here's what people are saying. They're applauding the signing when you let go of Rick Wagner and have $6 million of dead money on the books for is it even an upgrade going from Wagner to Big V? So you're basically paying, it's not only $50 million, it's not only $10 million next year. I know the cap doesn't work out exactly, but it's not 5 by 10. It's this upcoming year, you're basically paying $16 million for a right tackle spot. That's garbage. It's just roster mismanagement at every corner. And I realize that might sound harsh when you do have some promising pieces in DeAndre Swift, Kenny Golladay. I obviously really like Matthew Stafford. I hope he's healthy. But outside of that, I don't see how you can even say that this offense is better than a Green Bay one with a better quarterback, a better running back, and a better wide receiver, and a much better offensive line, and a Minnesota one that I think is closer, but I do think still eclipses it. And they showed it last year when they were 8th in the league in points scored. I think that they clearly showed that they were better than the Lions when, sure, they lost Diggs, but they added a first-round wide receiver to replace him. So I think you could debate the Bears. I think the Bears is a more fair debate. Oh, absolutely. It's a more fair debate. No. When you have Allen Robinson versus Kenny Golladay, that's closer than Adam Thielen Kenny Golladay is. Stop it.
No, this offense, I think, is the best NFC North. I just don't think they even have a capable defense to match it. I think that's the problem. It's not this side of the ball. I think if you gave this offense a clone copy of any of the other 3 teams' defenses, this is the top team in the division. I don't think it's even a doubt. But they don't have a clone of the other 3 teams' defenses. They have, and I apologize, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. It's not the other 3. I don't think this is the problem this side of the ball. This is their strength, and I think it shows. Their weapons and their quarterback combo is the best in the NFC North.
If this is your strength, then this is why they make shirts for the Lions that say #4th in the North. If this is your strength, because that offensive line is not a strength.
That's true.
Those weapons are definitely strengths. I will not argue with it there. I think I'm going to argue the extent to which they're a strength. And it's not even a long-term strength when you consider that Marvin and Amendola are probably going to be gone next year. And you don't know how Stafford's health is going to hold up. But I agree in the short term that, yeah, this is probably a top above-average offense for sure, as long as that offensive line can do anything. But I don't think that they will. So with that being said, are you ready to get into the defense?
Yeah, I got a little carried away with myself in the offense, but yeah, that hurts.
It should hurt.
Yeah.
That should hurt, Mike. I haven't, for every single team so far, I've said, let's focus on the current roster and let's spotlight a player that is on their team and For the Detroit Lions, I just couldn't because to me, losing an all-pro corner, and not even losing, I understand if he walks in free agency, but him demanding a trade because of your coach's incompetency and then only getting a 3 and a 5 back, to me, that's just egregious. And a lot of stuff that Bob Quinn does is egregious. So, Mike, what I'll ask you is what spots in this defense are not egregious?
I have a player. I actually think kind of a breakout candidate. I think we're gonna see some pretty good things from him. I think Tracy Walker. I think the potential with Tracy Walker. I think last year he showed it. I think he has a chance to be a top caliber safety in this league. And I know that's going to get you. But this defense, no, I mentioned it before. I don't like you cut Devon Kennard to replace him with an older Devon Kennard, maybe a little bit better pass rusher, but that's about it. Jarrad Davis, it just disappoints me. We both were a fan of him in the draft. He just hasn't performed, and I don't know if he hasn't performed or if the Lions haven't utilized his talent and abilities. I think that's more of his problem. And Christian Jelani Tavai, I just don't understand. It's incompetent, to be honest. And obviously, I do have problems with this defense. I think something that it's not an upgrade because you lost a player that's pictured on this slide, but I think it's interesting that they signed Desmond Trufant and then Jeff Okudah. This might be the closest thing since Mathis and Slay that the Lions have seen to a competent cornerback duo. But you lost an all-pro player, probably top 5 corner like Slay. I can't say it's an upgrade.
No, I mean, Desmond Trufant, like, as good as he used to be, and maybe as good as he can still be, the man hasn't played – he's played one full season since his last Pro Bowl year in 2015. What am I supposed to do with that? That would make a really good – no, I just want you to picture this. If you brought in Desmond Trufant as your number 2 corner, you still had Darius Slay as your number 1 corner, and then you spent that number 3 pick, or let's say you traded back, preferably trade back, and then you bring in a guy like Derek Brown as that 3 tech or 1 tech. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we have some force multipliers in here that are going to make everybody better. But instead, it's like you're a sinking boat and you're just like filling the holes with bubble gum. And like when there's so many holes, the bubble gum's not gonna last, and then eventually you're gonna sink. And I think that this team sunk last year, and unfortunately, I really wouldn't be shocked if we sink again this year. I mean, would you?
No, I wouldn't be surprised, but I think it's a better team. I think this year they go back to where they sit usually. I think they're an 8-8 to maybe. I think they're a 7-9 to 9-17. I think that's where they sit this year with that offense, getting Matt Stafford back. I think that's where they sit, and I don't.
Okay, so I'm gonna read you a couple stats, Mike. I want you to tell me how we've improved in these areas. Okay, pass rush win rate for defensive linemen. We're operating at 24% clip, last in the NFL. Have our pass rushers got better?
Nope.
No. Quarterback rating against 99.6, 27th in the NFL. Have we gotten better at either making quarterbacks feel uncomfortable, you've already said no, or defending the pass?
Debatable.
It's really not that debatable, Mike. It's really not. We both know, we've said it in multiple videos, that corner is the hardest spot to transition in the NFL, and Desmond Trufant is – we talked about Slay – well, people talked about Slay losing a step last year because he's 29, he's coming out of his prime, blah, 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 blah. Desmond Trufant's 29 as well. So what are we even talking about here? And then if you want me to keep going, points allowed per game, we were 27th in the league with 26 points allowed. I don't see that getting better. And sacks, we only had 28, which is tied for 31st in the league. I don't see that getting much better. So at the end of the day, I just don't get what's going on here. Again, I'm gonna speak on kind of the incompetence in terms of like cap management. Just to me, like the biggest problem is the dead money with this team. So again, we can say like, oh, Danny Shelton's a competent nose. You got him at a decent deal, 2 years, $8 million. That's solid. $4 million a year. But then you consider, oh yeah, but we cut Damon Harrison and we owe him $5 million next year. Like that's just bad. Or Jamie Collins. Again, you have to add on the $1.75 million from Devon Kennard. And then you have the like six mil combined between Slay and Quandre Diggs. But the problem is, Mike, is that Bob Quinn was the guy who brought in the Rick Wagners, the Damon Harrisons, and the Devon Kennards, you know? So it's like, why are we sitting here with 20 mil in dead money that could be improving this roster when those are guys that you brought in? And to me, that just speaks to the incompetence, because I would understand it if this team was vastly improved and you were cutting guys to improve them. But can we really say that D tackle got that much better than Damon Harrison? No, I don't think so. Can we say that linebacker got that much better than Devon Kennard? No, I don't think so. Can you say that offensive tackle, going back to that, got much better than Rick Wagner? Is that team, is that roster better than, what were we, 3-12-1? Yes, of course. Obviously, you have the best the best quarterback that this team's ever seen back. But do we think that it got much better than like a 6-10 roster? Do you, at least, looking at the schedule?
Yes, I said I think it's a 7-9 to 9-7 team. I just do. I think if they could just get their head out of their ass and just perform, but the offense just needs to perform. I'm really banking on the offense here, and that's where the offense won the Super Bowl. That defense wasn't that great. The Chiefs' defense is not that great. It has a couple players more than the Lions have. I'm not saying this is a Super Bowl team. I'm not saying it's a playoff team. I don't think 7-9 and 9-7 makes the playoffs. I just think they're a better team, and I don't think this schedule is that big of a problem. I don't. I think they start off week 1 versus the Bears. I think that's a winnable game. And then the next 3 games, they're kind of a continuous punch in the mouth. And I think that's going to say a lot about them. So if I had a stretch that's going to say a lot about this Lions, and I think it'll say a lot going your way, is that 3-game stretch against the Packers, the Cardinals, and the Saints. I think it's going to be a rough stretch for them. And I think that's where, starting off the season like that, they might lean closer to that 7-9.
Like, I wish I could agree with you, man. But I got this clock like 20 years ago, and it's been stuck on 6-10 ever since I got it. I can't figure out how to work it. So I don't think that we're going to be much better than that, Mike. And like, maybe that clock will even move this way, and we'll be 5-11, honestly. And you know what that means? That means it's time for Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia to pack it up and go. I just don't know what games you're winning here. I mean, if you look at it and you want to say Bears, Jacksonville, Falcons, Redskins, Panthers, I don't think you're taking both from the Bears, but that's 6th. Everybody else is a playoff team or a fringe playoff team. So you can say it's a pretty weak schedule, and I agree for the most part, but I think it's a weak team, and that's really the problem here. I think that it's a team that, like I said, has some nice pieces, some really nice pieces that I do hope can develop into kind of that Pro Bowl, all-pro level talent, but I just don't think that we're there yet, and I don't think that we're going to get there until this regime is out the window.
No, I'd agree with that. I don't think they'll be able to make the next hump until the team's out the window, but I think they're just a little bit above where you are. But I agree with you. This regime needs to get the hell out. They keep replacing their own problems, and that speaks to the team. But we're likely going to see a 6-10 or we see a 7-9. We're probably going to see the same regime here. They made improvement, right? So I guess this is where we just end on a sad note, because we are Lions fans. We always end on a sad note. I guess it's usually not end on a sad note. We start on a sad note. That's usually how it works for us. So, but hey, Mike, on a good note, if people are watching, liking our videos, if they like this video, our hometown team, Detroit Lions, you should subscribe, leave a like, comment. If you have a team in mind, maybe you're a fan of the Tennessee Titans. What video are we going to do next, Mike?
Anybody but the Lions.
That's true. But we would do the Titans because that's what you guys want. All 5 of you. So with that, Mike, do you have anything else?
No, man. I was, when I was grabbing all my props for the video, the only other one I didn't get to use was my Detroit Lions Christmas star. So, I mean, I guess this one, at this point, I'm going to put it on the tree hoping for Matt and Bob to find a new job this December. But other than that, I don't really have much else to say, Mike. Are you good to go?
Yeah. I think we mic'd up. and you know we mic it out.